All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really powerful book, Stephanie Foo's memoir, What My Bones Know. It's this incredibly raw, super well-researched, and, in the end, a really hopeful look at what it takes to heal from something called complex PTSD.
So Stephanie Foo kicks off her entire story with this line, just 5 words. And it's such a promise, right? She's telling us, hey, we're about to go somewhere dark, but stick with me, there's light at the end. It's a journey of hope, for sure. But first, you have to face some pretty terrifying stuff.
And that's the real kicker here. This isn't a story about some monster hiding under the bed. The monster is inside. It's about that fight that happens long after the actual trauma is over, when the battlefield is your own mind.
Okay, let's get into it. Section 1, the invisible illness, or the diagnosis that finally explained everything. So here's the setup. Stephanie Foo. From the outside, her life looked perfect. Successful journalist, great partner, the whole 9 yards. But inside, she was dealing with this constant, just crushing sense of dread. And then finally, her therapist gave it a name.
And that name was complex PTSD, or C-PTSD for short. Now, what's wild is that this diagnosis isn't even officially in the DSM, the big book of mental health diagnoses here in the US. C-PTSD isn't about one single bad thing happening. It's about trauma that happens over and over for a long time, especially when you're a kid and you can't get away. And that kind of experience, well, it can completely reshape who you are.
So it's really, really important to get the difference here. When we think of PTSD, we usually think of a single event, right? Like a soldier coming back from war. But C-PTSD, that's different. It's not a single scar. It's more like the trauma gets woven into the very fabric of your personality. After years and years of it, it changes how you see yourself, your relationships, everything.
Wow. This quote from her just says it all. Imagine getting that diagnosis. For her, it wasn't a relief. It was horrifying. Suddenly, it felt like every single part of her life, her fears, her passions, even her love for people, was just a symptom. She felt like she was the problem, the one common denominator in every bad thing that had ever happened.
All right, section 2 is titled What My Bones Know, and it's all about the science and the story of inherited trauma. See, to figure out her future, Stephanie had to go deep into her past. And not just her past, but the idea that trauma can literally be passed down through generations. And the abuse she faced, it was just relentless. This one story from the book is so telling. Her mother was editing her childhood journal. And the memory that sticks with her isn't the family trip she wrote about, it's the feeling of a plastic ruler cracking down on her hand because she got a C- on her writing. It wasn't about teaching her, It was about control.
And this isn't just about feelings. This kind of childhood has real, staggering, scientifically proven consequences. There's this landmark study on adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and it found that the more of these experiences you have as a kid, the higher your risk for all sorts of awful health problems later. Get this, a high ACEs score means you're 12 times more likely to attempt suicide. 12 times.
So you might be wondering, how on earth can trauma be inherited? Well, the answer seems to be in a field called epigenetics. It's not that your actual DNA code changes. Think of it more like your experiences, especially trauma, can slap these little chemical sticky notes onto your genes. And those notes tell your body which genes to use and which to ignore. And the craziest part? Those sticky notes can be passed down to your kids. There's a famous study with mice that shows exactly how this works. Okay, so scientists took a mouse, let's call it mouse A. They let it smell cherry blossoms, and then they gave it a little shock. So mouse A learns cherry blossoms are bad. Its brain chemistry actually changes. Then mouse A has babies. And when its children and even its grandchildren are exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, they freak out. They show fear, even though they've never ever been shocked. The trauma, the fear, was literally inherited.
Okay, on to section 3, the work of healing. This is all about her long and, believe me, winding search for a cure. So now she has a diagnosis. She understands the history, and she sets out on this mission to get better. But what she finds out pretty quickly is that there is no magic pill for C-PTSD. There's no simple map.
And, her search was relentless. Look at this list. EMDR, you've got restorative yoga, mindfulness, acupuncture, sound baths, group therapy, even psychedelic-assisted therapy, a gratitude journal. She tried literally everything. It became her full-time job, just bouncing between appointments, doing research, and hitting a lot of dead ends.
And this quote really shows you her mindset at the beginning. She's this super high-achieving journalist, right? So she figures she can just treat her trauma like a project. Give it a deadline, be productive. I'll be healed by the end of 2018. But as she was about to find out, healing just doesn't work like that.
Section 4, the power of repair. And this is really the breakthrough moment. Relational healing. The big shift happened when she stopped trying to fix herself all alone and started focusing on healing through her connections with other people. This line from her therapist, Dr. Jacob Ham, was a total game changer. Punishment is not love. Spaciousness is love. It meant that she couldn't heal by beating herself up, which is what she learned her whole childhood. The real healing had to come from the exact opposite of that, from forgiveness, from understanding, and from just giving herself and other people the space to be messy and imperfect.
So, what Dr. Ham taught her was that the goal isn't to never have conflict. That's impossible. The key is learning how to repair things after a fight or a misunderstanding. And it's a process. It starts with being vulnerable, actually saying, I feel hurt. Then, the other person has to listen without immediately getting defensive. Then you try to really see their pain. And finally, you offer that reassurance. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to get through this. It's so powerful.
And that brings us to our final section, a different kind of strong. Because this is where the story lands, on a totally new definition of what it actually means to heal and what it means to be strong.
Okay, this idea from Dr. Ham is another huge one. The difference between pain and suffering. Pain, like sadness or anger or fear after something bad happens, that's a normal, healthy response. It's a signal. The suffering is all the extra stuff we pile on top. It's the shame, the self-blame, that little voice in your head that says you're bad for feeling this way. So healing isn't about becoming numb. It's about letting yourself feel the real pain without all the extra suffering.
And then comes this completely unexpected twist. When the COVID pandemic hit and the whole world went into crisis mode, Stephanie found she was actually kind of thriving. All those things that came from her trauma, that hyper-awareness, the ability to stay strangely calm when everything is falling apart, they suddenly became assets. Like one scientist told her, PTSD is really only a mental illness when things are peaceful.
So healing doesn't look like a flat line of pure happiness. It's a journey. You start in this place she calls the void, that feeling of just emptiness and self-hate. Then you go through the work, and that's the long, exhausting part, all the therapy and self-discovery. And you end up in a place of fullness. It's not perfection. It's about being able to hold all of it, the pain, the joy, the anger, the love, all at once, and knowing that you're still whole.
And that's really the question the book leaves us with. What if healing isn't about making the scars disappear? What if it's about learning how to carry them, but with a sense of hope and a sense of control? That beast of C-PTSD might always be there, but now she's the one in charge. She has hope. She has agency. And maybe that's the happy ending she promised us at the very beginning.